Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Today, we're honored to have the former mayor of Houston, Annise Parker. Annise Parker brings to her candidacy for Harris County judge a proven record of progressive leadership forged over nearly 2 decades in Houston city government. She served 6 years on the Houston City Council, 6 years as city controller, and 3 terms as mayor from 2010 to 2016. During her tenure, she balanced multi-billion-dollar budgets without raising taxes or laying off first responders, launched the Rebuild Houston Street and Drainage Program, secured voter approval for a $410 million public improvement bond, and created the city's first sobering center to divert nonviolent public intoxication from the criminal justice system. She also led local efforts towards LGBTQ plus equality, including authoring and championing the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance, HERO, which banned discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, housing, city contracting, and public accommodations. A lifelong Houstonian and a Rice graduate, Annise now seeks to bring that leadership to Harris County to keep it safe, affordable, and thriving under escalating budgetary climate pressures. How are you doing today, former mayor, Miss Annise Parker?
I'm doing very well, and it's good to be back on your show. We've known each other for a number of years. You have interviewed me before, so happy to be back.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. First of all, tell me a little bit about, I think there's some context for this. That $410 million bond program that you used to upgrade infrastructure. Tell me a little bit about that. And is that sort of the things that you're going to be looking at going forward?
So the people have to understand that the job of county judge is a fundamentally different job than the job of mayor. Although the one thing they do have in common is the expectation that you'll use your bully pulpit, the position you have, to bring people together around big projects or big ideas. So both the city and the county do massive infrastructure work, and aligning people around those bond elections. A bond election is simply you go to the voters and say, do I have permission to borrow money? And in order to get that voter permission, you have to be a trusted conveyor of information, and then you have to fulfill those projects. I'm not only did I do the major infrastructure work through bonding, but we also did the Rebuild Houston program, which is the drainage fee, so we could add even more money to our street and drainage work. One of the analogs to your question is the problem that the county is facing right now is that they did a bond election and they went to the voters and asked for major infrastructure money, and now those projects are stalled out. And a lot of voters want to understand what happened and why they didn't get the work they promised. I'm not there. I wasn't involved in the discussions, but I absolutely know that they will have a challenge the next time they ask permission from the voters if they don't immediately dig in and start putting some of those projects out on the street. These are critical infrastructure projects that need to get done.
I think that brings up the question of trust, and I think it's a serious question. When I saw the report, to be blunt, it was shocking to me that not a whole lot that should have been done got done. So what are your thoughts on that specifically? I asked a question generally about what you did with the city, now specifically with the county. How do you build trust to get over that which seems to be actually it was a bad thing?
Yeah, no, it is a serious problem for the county, and in my mind even more so because the administrators the county said, go do these projects and evaluate them in this way, and they were ignored. And that's disrespectful to the commissioners. It's disrespectful to the voters, and there's a lot to untangle there. But for me, going into this position, I was in office for 18 years. There were no scandals on my watch. There were no, you could disagree with things I championed, but we did it in a straightforward manner. and we did what we said we were going to do. I even had a moment where in the drainage fee, the Public Works Department had made a calculation error. And, I had gone to the voters and said the drainage fee would average this amount for voters, and it was going to come up higher than that. And I stood in front of I called a press conference and said, we're going to meet our commitment to the voters. We're going to bring in less money, but we're going to make sure that we keep our commitments. Governments must keep their commitments. Now, and trying to untangle a little bit about what happened with the county. It's not that the money disappeared. It's that the county set priorities on how it would be spent. And they had, in my view, two major priorities. One, let's leverage the money, which every voter can understand that. If there's somebody else who's going to pony up half of the cost, if they can leverage the dollars and the dollars will go forward, that makes a whole lot of sense. Let's leverage the money where we can, make those priority projects. And then let's spend money in communities that have been largely ignored in the past. That's the part that both projects were delayed, but the piece that was let's put equity into this calculation is the part that was just completely ignored, and that has to be fixed. Especially, I'm looking at we both come from we both bring our intersectional selves to this conversation, and we both understand what it means to be marginalized in different spaces, and for the county government to say we believe it's important to go into these communities first, especially at a time when our federal government and our state government are attacking minority communities, that they have to be responded to. And I am surprised that heads haven't rolled over in county administration, that some of this has happened.
That heads haven't rolled, and who's in charge of rolling heads?
So this is one of the issues. There is a county administrator, and that county administrator is responsive to the commissioner's court, which is the 4 commissioners and the judge, and then the operating departments of the county, the ones that aren't headed by individual elected officials. Their work does flow up through the county administration office. Again, I don't think they've gotten to the bottom of it. So those of us looking from the outside can't get there yet. But clearly there is a disconnect between what was actually voted on in open court by the commissioners as to how these projects should be laid out and what was carried out. Now, there are other problems as well. Costs are going up. The federal administration changed, rules changed. There's all sorts of things that can delay massive construction projects. But the part that is under the control of the commissioners is, what order do we do the projects? And when we tell the county administrators and the engineers, this is what we want done, one would expect that to happen.
Yeah, one would expect that. Absolutely. Now, you've been campaigning on safe, affordable, and on a Harris County that is safe, affordable, and thriving. How specifically will you protect public health services for seniors and families in face of what is it's going to be a very austere at least 4 years?
So all the things in the so-called big, beautiful bill that I know your viewers are familiar with, most of them are going to impact Harris County in a very negative way. To your question, throwing people off of Medicaid and Medicare, Harris County is Harris Health, the hospital district. We are the provider of last resort for a lot of folks. And we can't say, oh, we're just not going to treat you. Go down the street and die on the street. We have to do something. That means the taxpayers of Harris County are going to have to figure out how to fund the work that Harris Health has to do. Harris Health has to be held accountable to run effectively and efficiently. And I think Dr. Porsa is certainly doing that, and he understands the challenges. But that's not the only thing that's going to be coming at Harris County. It's not just the healthcare impacts. It's, Trump saying he's going to do away with FEMA. Now, he may change his mind after Kerr County, but he laid off all of the hurricane forecasters. Anybody who lives in Harris County and is not concerned about the fact that they laid off hurricane forecasters and that they're planning on doing away with FEMA is not paying attention. But what happens if they do those things is that Harris County and the surrounding counties are going to have to step up and backfill things that the state and the federal government used to do. We saw after the 4th of July floods what happens when county administration fails its residents in disaster preparedness. The county judge in every county in Texas is the overall authority for disasters and disaster management. So as the federal government is dismantling the infrastructure, we at the local level have to be building up. Again, everything rolls downhill. We're going to have to figure out how to better coordinate with among the 34 cities within Harris County. We're going to have to figure out how to better coordinate with our surrounding counties. When I was mayor, I did not overlap with the current county judge, being Ed Algo. It was all with Ed Emmett.
Ed Emmett, yeah.
But we had regular meetings with I and the surrounding county judges, sort of a private meeting where we could get together and talk shop, talk about major issues coming forward. That was in addition to things like the Houston Galveston Area Council, where we are formally in meetings with each other. So I think you have to work every formal network you have, but you have to build relationships, and those relationships have to be built on trust. I was working at Baker Ripley. I just left the mayor's office. I was working at Baker Ripley when Harvey came, and Ed Emmett was still the county judge. I was term limited. He called Angela Blanchard, the head of Baker Ripley, and said, we need to set up an evacuation shelter at NRG. And I was one of the two executive VPs that worked directly for Angela. And as a fairly nimble nonprofit, we were able to set up an evacuation shelter in a matter of hours. But that was because Ed trusted all of us to get it done. And he didn't micromanage. He just said, this is the authority you have. These are the guardrails. Go get it done. That's why you have to have the relationships in advance of the disaster.
How's your relationship with the current mayor?
It's okay. I've known John for a very, very long time. I will say that he's a little bit hard-headed, and I don't know. He returns my phone calls, and we have a respectful relationship. And I know we can work together in an emergency. I have no doubt. I worked with Greg Abbott and Rick Perry in emergency situations. Ted Cruz in emergency situations. I know I can work with Whitmire, but we don't communicate regularly. We see each other out and about. I know what his job is, and I think that helps because I know what I don't have unreasonable expectations of him. But I also am quite comfortable picking up the phone and saying, John,
do your job.
I have a concern about this, and he responds respectfully, and he'll either listen or not.
Well, I'm glad that you're one. I'm glad you are one Democrat he will listen to. I am happy to hear that. Okay.
I haven't been able to shift his position on anything that I know of, but he does engage and listen. And this is, I want to follow up on what I just said about whether it's John Whitmire
or Ted Cruz.
Or Ted Cruz. It didn't work much with Ted Cruz because he didn't do much for Houston or Texas. But in an emergency, we are all Texans first and foremost. And the expectation has to be that if you call the mayor, you call the governor, that they will respond appropriately. And we see what happens when they didn't. After Harvey, when the General Land Office decided that Harris County didn't deserve any relief money for whatever reason, I think that was largely the end of George P. Bush's career. He didn't do the right thing for his fellow Texans, and people recognize that. So, you can play politics up to a certain extent,
but not during emergencies.
Lives are at stake. Yeah. You gotta step up.
Now, Texas has quite a few. There was once a time that Republicans believed in local control. And recently, especially with big cities, in fact, many times carve-outs for big cities, that has disappeared. How do you, the thing about it is that big cities have a lot of power in people, but their power is not used commensurate with their size. What will you do to try to get voter involvement. Because if we had voter involvement by the numbers, the types of things that the legislature has done to pretty much neuter the commissioner's court, to neuter the city, would not be done. But I'll be honest with you, I don't see our leaders engaging the people as they should.
So voter suppression is a fact. It is a deliberate effort on the part of state leadership to try to limit access to the ballot box by primarily communities of color. And we have a responsibility. I'm sorry, are you still with me?
Oh, yes, I'm with you.
Something just popped up on my computer.
Yeah.
And we have a responsibility to do what we can. And Harris County is the entity that is responsible for oversight of voting here in Harris County. And so, I mean, Harris County government is responsible for even Harris County runs the elections for the city of Houston. We all contract with Harris County. So there's the absolute authority to do certain things. And then there's the responsibility, which is what you're talking about, to get people engaged and make sure that they understand what the issues are and what needs to happen. Looking at this another way, the fact that the state has been at war with the major cities for years and trying to limit local control is both frustrating and actually stupid in a lot of ways. We are the economic engines of the state. I respect that there are wonderful people who live in rural Texas, and I have a lot of friends and relatives who do, but they are not the economy of Texas. The economy of Texas is Houston and Dallas and Austin and Fort Worth and San Antonio, the El Paso, the big cities. And you have to care about the care and feeding of the big cities. And what they've been so focused on conservative votes in rural areas that they've done their best to ratchet down the abilities of the big cities to self-govern and then trying to keep the urban populations of those big cities from showing up to vote. That's again where we need to push the envelope in voter registration. We need to push the envelope in Chris Hollins, when he was the elections administrator in Harris County, did a fantastic job of finding ways to help people vote in the midst of COVID. I don't know that we need to do drive-through voting, but we need to make sure that voting is as easy and convenient as it possibly can be. And we need to go right up to the limits of whatever the state will allow us to do. But I also think that every local elected official also has a responsibility to get out and to show up, to explain to people what's going on, to remind them to vote, to talk about the issues. I'm astounded sometimes at how little outreach that a lot of elected officials actually do. Now, okay, so Houston's 2.3 million people, the county's maybe 4.7 million people, and it is very, very difficult for a local elected official to like have. I could go to a civic club meeting every night. When I was mayor, every month I did a different outreach. One month would be a teletown hall, then it would be a web chat. Then it would be 3 minutes with the mayor, where I'd go to a library and people would just show up and ask whatever, I'd spend a couple hours at the library, whatever questions they wanted. And then we'd do merchant walks on the next month. So every quarter we would do something. I had a very aggressive schedule of civic associations. There's no way you can really flood the zone in terms of talking to people. One human being can't do that. But if every one of us made the commitment to engaging with our constituents, look at what's happening with our members of Congress, the Republican members of Congress, who stopped holding town halls because they're afraid of their constituents and ashamed of what they've done. Apparently, every one of us who's an elected official has an obligation to show up and have as much communication with constituents as possible. Can we get to what I think you were hoping me to say? Let's really people will understand and show up. I don't know if we can get people up off the couch and show up at the polls. If this last election of Donald Trump did not do it, frankly, as a lifelong Democrat, if we can't take back a big chunk of our government next year, we don't deserve to be a political party anymore, because Donald Trump is showing us the ugly, brutal side of government, and he is hurting people every day he's in office. And we have to be talking about that, but we have to be doing it in a clear and consistent way, and we all have to be out there doing it.
Now, I'll be honest with you. Recently, I've been listening to some of what you've been saying, and I've seen you hold the other side, the right, if you will, at hand more so than many of our other, put it nicely, scary Democrats. But what I'm hoping,
what term did you use about Democrats?
Scary Democrats.
Scary Democrats. Okay.
What I mean by scary is the ones that seem to be concerned or scared to actually confront the bull by the horns. Go ahead. It seems like you want to say something.
No, I don't have. I mean, I like to think that I was never particularly scared. I've been an activist my entire adult life.
No, I wasn't speaking about you. I was not speaking about you.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm not taking it that way, but I've been a lesbian activist since the 1970s,
and I know that.
I'm not easily intimidated, but I don't have a political, long-term political future. Let me say it that way. I am interested in this job because I know I can do this job. A lot of people run for an office and they want to leverage it for something else. I don't want anything else politically. I've had plenty of opportunities to run for other things. I want this job. So one answer to your question is a lot of those people who get mealy mouth are people who, they want to preserve their viability for something else. So that's a problem. You cannot sell out your constituents today for the job and the constituents you might have in the future. But the other thing I'm going to say is that I don't believe in picking stupid fights. I will call out a problem when I see a problem. But, as John Lewis said, he would talk about good trouble. Good trouble matters. Stupid fights are just stupid fights. They waste time and energy. And a lot of people don't understand the difference and they're afraid to engage. And then, there is always an opportunity or a possibility of pushback or slapback. And, when I was mayor of Houston, I tried hard not to pick stupid fights because, again, I needed to be able to bring money into the city. I needed to be able to get cooperation from various federal agencies. I think the landscape has changed. You can do that when there's a reasonable conservative person on the other side. You can't do that when there is a bully on the other side who is determined.
Exactly.
You have to just punch back as hard. But that's good trouble. That's not a stupid fight.
And I think most people would agree with you, but I think most people would also agree that fighting spirit has not been there. And like I said, I'm not equating this with you at all because I've known what you've gone through yourselves with Hero and many other issues. But I think you just made the most important statement likely of this conversation here when you went ahead and mentioned, I want the job because this is what I want, and there's not much more that I intend to do. I think that is something that we're expanding on.
So,
what do you want to do? In fact, I had a whole lot of other questions, but I don't need to ask them anymore because all I need to do is give you the platform and say, okay, Ms. Parker, you definitely want this job because you're telling me there's not a hell of a lot more that you are aspiring to be politically, so you can do what you really want to do. What do you intend to do?
So again, the very first and most important responsibility of the Harris County judge is emergency management. You have to know that the county judge has your back when the hurricane's coming, when another Winter Storm Uri is coming, when the floodwaters are coming. You have to know that there's a clear and there's a clear emergency plan, that there's good coordination and communication, and that the response will come because we can't depend on anybody else. We have to do it down here. You also have to trust that the county judge has her eye on the budget. You don't manage the budget. I'm going to digress for a second. Kerr County, the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, they kept cutting taxes, and they, for a fraction of their money, they could have had a siren system that would have saved
135 lives. Yes.
But they were focused on, you don't manage a budget in order to shave away the spending and build up reserves. You manage a budget so you can do priority projects, so you can make things happen that are critical for your county and your region. So emergency management, and oversight of the budget and spending, making sure that the bond election and the infrastructure projects that were supposed to come out of that bond election get done in a timely manner where the Commissioner's Court directed those dollars. Obviously, that didn't happen, and we have to do that again. Then there are the making sure that the hospital district is strong and healthy. That's a budgetary issue, but it's also a communication and coordination issue. The hospital district is about to expand Bentab Hospital. There's going to be a lot of navigation that has to do that because they want to take a chunk of Herman Park. They're going to have to work their way through the city. That's coordination between governments. That is a primary role of the county judge. And then public safety. I'm a friend and a fan of Sheriff Ed Gonzalez. I know many of the constables out there. They got a big and well-deserved raise. We have to make sure that the feds don't turn them into ICE enforcers, for example. And that is something that there's going to be tremendous pressure in the next few years to do more and more of that, which only makes local law enforcement more difficult. So emergency management, budget, making sure that the big pieces of county government happen in an efficient manner and that they serve the people that they need to serve, the hospital district, the various law enforcement agencies, the parks and the libraries. I mean, we haven't even gotten to those because those are also, they may not be the top priorities of any government, but as someone who was in government for a long time, they are the things that make life worth living. They are the things that make a community a place you want to plant your family and build your future. And we have to, as Harris County, working with the cities, has to continue to make investments in those things that, libraries are very different than they were when you and I were young, but they're still important. And unfortunately, still for a lot of kids, they are the only place they can get to Wi-Fi. They're the only place they can link to the world.
Hey, both of us are still young, okay? Both of us are still young now.
You were kind to say that.
All right. Now, here's the deal. My last question is always the same. What should I have asked you that I didn't?
So maybe why am I running now?
Well, actually, why would you come up with a question that you already answered? I mean, and you gave a great answer. Unless you want to improve on that answer.
Because I want this job. But I'll circle back to it. Yes, I want this job, but I see that the problems are only going to get worse. And for me, that is why it is that now is the time. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to step up. We can't wait. Now the question I've been asked over and over again, if you want a different one, is, well, why do I want to run against Lena Hidalgo? I don't want to run against Lena Hidalgo. I don't know whether she is running or not. I'm running because I want this job. And I'm running because I think I have the skills and experience and the relationships to do this job very well.
Annise Parker, candidate for Harris County Judge and former Houston City Mayor, former Houston Controller. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.